Hey everybody, I'm Jason from the So Percussion, and we're doing another Brooklyn Bound podcast. And these are always wonderful, and I'm very excited to be talking to Pathos Trio. Pathos is playing a set on our March 11th Brooklyn Bound. And at least on my screen, which I think is the screen everybody's going to see, we have Felix Reyes on percussion. We have Marcelina Suhotska. No.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you sure?
So
I thought you were good.
yeah.
Oh, good. And Alan Hankers playing piano. Marcelina plays percussion as well. And thank you for that. People should know that every time I push record on this, I always ask folks how they pronounce their names, and that's why we were just laughing, because I was so hopeful. My last name is Truding, not Troiding, for everybody out there. Though Troiding is totally fine. It's probably, it's the way it should be in German if I was to move back to Germany ever, which I don't think I'm going to, but I don't know. Have you guys been to Berlin? Feels like
you live in Germany?
No. I never, no. Many generations in the past. But Berlin's pretty cool. Maybe we should all move there sometime. It seems like there's some cool stuff happening.
Yeah, sure.
Well, cool. It is nice to see you all again / meet you. Very pumped to see what you all have in order for us in March. But we're going to start where we always start, and this can be tricky with 3 folks on the line, but maybe it doesn't have to be. We'll talk about our origins, your origin story more, maybe not so much as individuals, but where did Pathos come together? What's the history of Pathos, and how did you all start playing together?
Yeah, I think it definitely started between like me and Marcelina, because I think it was it like in 2016 or 2017, I think, Marcelina, where like I like reached out to you, because that was around it was 2017 for sure, because that was around the time I moved to Brooklyn. I just finished grad school, and just moved to Brooklyn and didn't really know anybody. And I was like, all right, I gotta like meet percussionists, and just and like I was already kind of even starting working with you guys actually was so. I don't know if you remember, like I was interning during that time, and like was working with Eric. So I was kind of branching off of you guys, but also just kind of reaching out to people that I was thinking of, like, oh, like who would be cool to like just like get to know and like try to work with and play with. And then like kind of doing like research, like Marcelina came up on my radar, and it was just like seeing her social media back then. It was just like this super intense, like hardcore heavy metal, like black metal chick, and I was like, oh my god, this chick is awesome. I was like, I need to like DM message her and be like, yo, we should play together. And I remember she was like, oh yeah, it's awesome, yeah, like definitely, like you should come watch a MSM concert. And I remember going to I think it was like in the fall of 17, you guys had an MSM like marimba concert.
Yeah, we tell like our semi-annual Shivu, like kind of, she comes and teaches us, and we do a marimba concert.
Yeah, and then I remember you playing. I can't remember exactly what bach, but you're playing some bach. I'm like, yeah, this chick's like badass, and and then I was like, all right, we should like play together, and we like played some vinyl. We like read some vinyl. And yeah, and
I love the idea of just sight reading vinyl. I've never heard those words said before. That's really cool. That doesn't feel like a normal sight reading.
Yeah,
Felix does with everybody that he first meets.
Yeah,
that's how I test the waters. It's like if you can't play vinyl, then no.
Would you be down to sight read?
We went to get some coffee the other day, and he sight read now with the barista.
I love that idea. So when I want to put a pin in this social media feed, Marcelina, I want to get back to your hardcore metal influences. But when you met Alan, did y'all also sight read vinyl? Was that the thing? How did that?
No, like me and Alan actually, like we went to undergrad together at SUNY Fredonia, and so we always knew of each other, and like I think maybe hung out like 3-4 times in total, like in our entire undergrad. So we weren't actually close in undergrad, but it was basically once me and Marcelina started like hanging out and like jamming, and then after that we actually started going to metal concerts together, and like then Alan came to mind. I was like, oh man, like I actually know like a composer who's like really into like prog metal and stuff like that. Like I should reach out to this person to write a duo piece for me and Marcelina. And that's when Alan sort of came in, and I reached out to him about writing a piece for me and Marcelina. And he was like, yeah, this is dope. I forgot, like we actually like met up and like had breakfast at IHOP. It was kind of weird.
Awesome.
like IHOP meeting.
It's either sight reading Vinyao or IHOP breakfast.
Those are the two connections. Well, so is that the first? Am I following this right? The first piece you all played as a trio, what Alan you wrote?
Yeah. So Felix
Awesome.
reached out to me and asked me to write this duo, and I met with him, and then he introduced me to Marcelina, and there was this instant chemistry before we even started playing together. And when we were just kind of discussing the scope of the commission, Felix suggested maybe making it a trio, and I'm a pianist. I was like, yeah, that'd be great. So I wrote this piece for us, and it was kind of just from there, kind of just became a thing, just kind of the inception of the group. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so is a common, I was kind of joking about it. I don't know why. It just felt like the appropriate thing to joke about in this form, but there was the kind of like prog metal influence was a common influence for the trio as a starting point. That was kind of.
It seems that way. I mean,
awesome.
I think, in our field, there's always such a diverse interest in music. We're all so open-minded and listen to so many genres, but it's rare that I meet other, classic musicians from this sort of classical medium and who are also listening to like, just ignore European black metal. It's very rare for me, at least. So I was like, wow. So it did kind of stick out as like a unique common denominator.
Yeah. That's amazing. So help me out. I think my I don't know much about black metal. For me, so back in the day, we worked with this electronic music duo, Matmos, and one of the guys, Drew, is really into kind of so we would be on the road, and I think the most I ever listened to black metal, I think, was when Drew was DJing. Maybe it's like we'd go there. But so who are the touchstone? What are the influences? Like
I don't think we've ever like actually had this conversation. Will we argue? I think we might argue about this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's do it. The floor is yours.
I don't know, Marcelina, what would you say? Throw you under the bus.
Are you putting the European on the spot? Is that what you
Yeah.
Naturally.
You have the most diverse palette.
I mean, obviously, like everybody has their own opinions on this, but like a lot of this comes from Scandinavia, especially like the original, black metal in this form. And some bands come to mind like Dark Funeral and Mayhem and Burzum and stuff. But I'm actually a lot interested in like Polish metal bands. There's one that's really blowing up that's comprised of some guys from my hometown, like it's not, which means like father, and that one's really amazing. And what's crazy is that like it's kind of like a colliding of worlds. Is my father and I, who got me into metal music, he's like a big metalhead. We went to see Batushka play in Chicago, which is where we immigrated to. It was just kind of like this crazy, I don't know, colliding of worlds, like seeing this metal concert with my dad, and they're from our hometown. It's wild. But that's my experience.
Awesome. Do y'all know the Polish metal band Marcelina's talking about? Is this a common?
Yeah, she was the one that introduced us, and we're like, this band is like, dope.
Amazing. And so then where was this first? So at this time, I'm gathering, Marcelina, you were in school at MSM. Felix, were you done, or were you out at?
No, I just graduated with my master's, at Bowling Green, and just moved to Brooklyn. So
nice. Okay. And so then where was this first concert? Where was this first? This commission, Alan wrote the piece, Pathos plays the first show. Where was that? When was that?
Well, we actually recorded the piece before we even performed it. Or was it, or did we play at Stony Brook? We played Stony Brook before or after we recorded it?
Stony Brook University, and then I don't remember the actual order, but it was like very close in proximity. Like we played it and recorded and played it. But yeah, so it premiered at Stony Brook, which is cool.
Very cool. And is this piece still part of your repertoire?
Yeah, I mean, we were going to play it a couple of times in the past year, which was like kind of the first year where we were going to really start gigging. We had all concerts
Like
Then
right
what-
before COVID, and then
What happened?
Yeah.
in theory, yes.
Yeah. Right. Well, very cool. And then, okay, so I do, we will of course talk about what you guys are doing on Brooklyn Bound. But so if this was your first piece, and then what other, like, what kind of developed around it? What, you guys commission more music? Is most of your repertoire commissioned pieces?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all of our rep is just new commissions,
Mm.
because that was the other thing that we sort of came across, like immediately, sort of like right away as Alan was writing his piece, was like, man, like there's actually, like, I mean, there's tons of stuff out there for like duo, like for piano percussion, quartet, like 2 piano, 2 percussion, but there's not like really any rep
It's
out
like
there
nothing. There's
for
nothing.
2 piano,
Yeah.
for piano and 2 percussion. Yeah. So it was like, all right, well,
Yeah.
we just got to commission people to write stuff for us.
Very cool. So what were those commissions like? Or who did you reach out to friends? Was that your way of building a repertoire, or how did that work?
We basically kind of just, well, we did research, and we were really thinking about, like, from like what we're all interested in, like, like as far as like aesthetics that we really like in like in the music, we're like really into kind of, and maybe Alan can like contest this too, but like really into, I mean, like lots of like dark ethereal music, sometimes things that can be pretty heavy. And so, and like with these aesthetics, we were really trying to just research composers that we thought, we can bring those sorts of elements out of, and so like our first set of commissions were with Evan Chapman, Alyssa Weinberg, Allison Yunfeng Zhang, who she's finishing up her doctorate at University of Chicago, and then Finola Miraval.
Yeah, I think in the general, like in the broader sense, we were looking for composers who maybe had more of like a vernacular influence in their music. And then of course, some of these composers also do come from a more sort of traditional chamber music kind of compositional style, whatever traditional means, but by way of saying maybe they're not influenced by, some of these other genres that we're talking about. So it was a really eclectic mix. And it was very fascinating to kind of program them, put them all in one program, and kind of see how like the shape of the program formed from that. So it was a really nice mix, and we were really lucky to work with these composers. And they wrote us great works.
Yeah, that's very cool. And yeah, I mean, I know most of those folks. I think it's cool. Actually, Finola, I just met. Do you all have friends that you've met over Zoom, and that's been your connection, right? It's like, it's been a year, so there's like, Finola is someone, we had her music programmed at our summer festival, and then our summer festival couldn't happen in person, so it happened online, and then got to hang with Finola and actually do a podcast like this, actually, because we did some of her music in this space. And then Alyssa works here in Princeton. I live in Princeton, so we know her from that space. And Evan, I know really well because he was a Soci alum, and we've done a lot of stuff together. So actually, maybe the fourth composer I don't know.
Allison.
Yeah. What's Allison's music all about? Marcelina, you jump on this one.
Yeah. So I met Allison at MSM. I think I first played her music when I was a freshman, and oftentimes at school, usually the underclassmen, younger class, I don't know, younger, I'm sorry. Ooh, did I disappear? My bad. Someone's calling me.
Disappeared, you came back.
Usually
Maybe.
the like lower class. Oh God, sorry. But basically, like the younger students, they would be like, basically the younger students, they would play a lot of the premieres and stuff, and so at a very young age, I was already kind of being introduced to the idea of like just always premiering something, and just being involved like in that kind of creation process. And to me, like that was the normal thing to be a part of as a percussionist, even though I play in an orchestra like day to day. But this is something that's very obvious to me, as well as like something like outreach. It's like it's just something that you do. But anyways, Allison's music, I remember being immediately attracted to it right away, because I feel like, you know, she's not a percussionist like every day, and so, but if you play her music, it's almost like as if she was, because there's some composers you're like playing their stuff and you're like, oh, clearly it's not a marimba player. Like, you know, you're doing like insane
Like
stuff.
Xenakis, right? We were just talking about Xenakis, yeah, before we pushed record. Yeah.
Don't get me
So
started.
Allison is not like Xenakis. Allison takes into consideration you as a performer. Is that what
Yeah,
I'm gathering?
not having 8 arms and stuff. But not that her music is not like challenging in other ways. It's just and also like I really enjoyed a lot of her music to be like semi-tonal or like an almost entirely tonal. As a contrast, like I mean, I also love atonal music as well. I just I think like she really walks the line really well of playing something that's like very accessible to new audiences. And I think that's something I always think about, is that like it's totally okay to be playing, you know, Stockhausen or whatever, or something that's people like walk away and they're feel like they, you know, just took LSD. But like also there's nothing wrong with playing something that's quite accessible. Like, you know, we're talking about Vinyao. Vinyao is like quite accessible. Like a new audience is like, oh, this is cool, groovy. And that's something also that our trio agreed upon, is that like this is something that we kind of all agree on, is that we can play some, you know, really out music, and we're equally into that, but we also wanted to have something that, you know, is not just, which is something that we were thinking about. And I just loved her compositional style. It's like very organic. I think she has like a lot of Eastern kind of influence as well in her music. Just very beautiful shapes.
Yeah. Awesome. I wanna know that music. I will check it out when we get off this call or sometime in the near future. I just want to say, so I gathered before I pushed record, Marcelina, you're in Miami now with New World. If we need to, it looks like you're in the concert hall. Do we need to talk with someone at New World about the connection? Is it an issue? Like, do we direct this specifically to MTT? Who do we talk to? I'm just joking.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, sorry. Clearly in the hall right now.
You're in the hall right now. It's a special place to be by yourself in a hall like that. Felix, I know you're in New York. Alan, where are you right now? Are you also?
So yeah, I'm in New York, but I'm just like outside the city. I'm in
you mentioned
Stony, Brook. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Awesome. Great. Well, cool. Does somebody want to tell us what we're gonna hear on the show in March? What's your set looking like for March?
Yeah, I think we're going to be definitely playing Distance, Alan's piece, and then we're going to be sharing a short promo of what we've been working on with Finola, because one of the things we were really lucky to do, like way before COVID, was like back in the summer in 2019, we did residency at Avaloq. So that was really kind of the first place where we were really starting to workshop these commissions. And so we went to Avaloq with Finola and Alyssa. And that was really where we were starting to just begin like working on writing the piece with them together. And we really haven't been able to share so much of that, because again, it's like, we had started just doing our first couple concerts right before COVID. Then COVID happened. So we've kind of had all these commissions sort of like completed. We had worked on them, put them together, and we've been just sort of sitting with them. And obviously we haven't been able to get together during COVID. But now we're really excited because we're going to be recording all the pieces finally, like in early June. With Evan, actually, with
Awesome.
410. So
yeah.
And so yeah, like definitely wanted to like share like a sneak peek of what at least Finola's piece is going to be like.
Awesome. Love it. Love sneak peeks. Brooklyn Bound. It's been cool and weird to figure out what Brooklyn Bound needs to be in this virtual space. You know, like in the pre-COVID world, Brooklyn Bound was a space where folks could try things out. I mean, definitely. I mean, actually, like when Evan played, Evan came in and just like did his CD release and like slammed all these awesome drum set solos, you know, and it was like, Evan, that's awesome. We were probably on the same night, like trying some shit out that we barely knew, like a very experimental space, you know, and he kind of made us look bad. But it's supposed to be a, you know, just a very kind of a space that's open for, you know, workshoppy things as well. So the idea of a sneak peek kind of fits really well into that, I think. So that's awesome. And Alan, I'm really pumped to hear your piece. This is the video that you'll show of your piece. Did it came from a concert, from the premiere or from the recording session, or what's that?
So yeah, we were very lucky to work with Evan's group, 410 Media, and it was from the recording session. So
Awesome.
we rented out this church in the upper West Side, really fantastic acoustics. So it's a vibe, as the kids would say these days.
Yeah. That is. Which church is on the Upper West Side?
It was a Riverside church.
Okay. Cool. I was just I'm given an online chat, as people do these days, and was looking through a project that So did in the UK, but it ended up it was commissioned by this. Well, it was commissioned, I think, by a national arts entity, but it was about a kind of small town, and you know, the kind of what the coal mining industry did in this small town. And when we did the premiere, there was no concert hall, and so it was in a church there, and it ended up being this just really special space and a really special premiere. And the tour a year later went to only churches all over England, which is not something we do in the US so much. It feels like it's not where a lot of our concerts happen, at least, but it was really special to play in those spaces, and the acoustics were always kind of different and very cool. So that's awesome. I'm glad it's called Distance, you said?
Yeah, so we call it Distance for short, but the entire title is Distance Between Places.
Awesome. And do you want to let us know anything, folks who are watching this podcast, before they see your piece? Is there anything to hip them to check out?
With the piece specifically?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I could talk briefly about it. Yeah, so it's very influenced by sort of again, this like kind of chamber music medium, and then also some of the influences from like metal that I listened to when I was growing up. You know, nowadays admittedly I don't listen to as much, but I realize I do listen to a lot of it when I'm making parts for pieces.
Oh, cool.
So, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was always a big fan of this band called Meshuggah. And their use of sort of this idea of isorhythm, which actually, you know, stems from sort of medieval compositional technique, you know, talking about churches in Europe.
Yeah.
So kind of having these sort of layers that are non-recursive. So maybe the harmony moves at one rate and then the rhythms move at another. And you sort of get this really kind of interesting process music that's happening. So the piece is very much influenced by that, and then has sort of sectional breaks where it becomes more kind of through composed and more intuitive. So the piece is kind of just sort of this movement through different kind of, I guess, focuses of awareness, like maybe this sort of process music then versus this music that kind of has a more kind of like a narrative aesthetic to it. So it's kind of influenced by sort of this kind of moving through, you know, this kind of conceptual framework, and then also influenced by these sort of like very loud, heavy kind of groovy sections with like these metric modulations that are very common in this kind of music. So
awesome, love it. Thanks for that. I'm even more excited to hear it now. Well, cool. You know, I think I was saying, kind of always move through these same kind of 5 questions, which we kind of have done the first 3 wonderfully with you, just kind of moving in and out of you know, just kind of musical life. And so these last 2, you know, maybe are more just about now. Save the fun one for last, and the heavier one, though it feels like I'm talking to a heavy band. You're talking about a lot of your influences and feel wonderfully like, you know,
we left off
dark and heavy. And yeah.
We left off the face paint.
Yeah. But so, you know, the world is so weird right now to be an artist in this space. You know, like, I mean, for many different reasons, right? We were all talking about this is about to be some form of a year anniversary from when we all had our last concerts, or what we thought was going to be our last concert, or whatever that was. So, you know, I remember at the beginning of the pandemic feeling, what does it mean to be an artist right now? Where should I be using my energy? Should I be using my energy as an artist, or should I be using my energy somewhere else? You know, like what all does that mean? You know, and then that's, I think, compounded for a lot of us coming out of George Floyd's murder and thinking about larger issues of equity and anti-racism, in a conversation that's been happening obviously for years, but that's happening more in our communities now, around Black Lives Matter, and then thinking about what does it mean to be an artist around those issues. And you know, I feel like we could keep going and throwing more, you know, politics and elections, and, you know, throwing all these things into this year, and kind of what a heavy space it is for all of us. And then thinking about our art, and you know I almost feel like weekly it changes for me, whether I feel like me being an artist right now is not important, I should be using my time somewhere more directly, or being an artist is it's more important now than ever, or how could I ever make music the way I used to make music? It needs to all change. Or wait a minute, there were a lot of values in the way I thought about music that can, you know, like I feel like my conversation, I'm letting you into the conversation inside my head. It changes day by day, you know. So I imagine for you all as a group, you've dealt with this just obviously practically and logistically, and what it means to be a group right now, but also I'm sure in heavier terms. But then as individuals, I'm sure you're wrestling with it too. What has this moment meant for you all, and has it changed the way you've thought about your practice? Or maybe we can go around the horn. Why don't we go, I don't know, alphabetical order, whichever alphabet. Oh, actually, if we choose first or last names, it's going to be the same alphabetical order. That's kind of crazy. Usually, you know, that's not the same, but I think, Alan, you're first, regardless.
So yeah, no, it's a great question, and such a complicated question. And I think for me personally, that sort of bouncing back and forth that you experience is something that I'm also experiencing. And you know, at this juncture in my life, so I'm completing my PhD, and I have this wonderful opportunity to teach at Stony Brook. So the main way that I've sort of been grappling with some of those questions is actually through reformulating the curriculum that I give to my students. So like right now I'm teaching a post-tonal analysis class, and you know, I made a very conscious effort to make sure that the music that we listen to is very diversified in many respects. And you know, and I try not to make it a thing. Like I don't be like, I'm diversified this listening list, and now it's this is what it should have been all along, right? So I kind of try to make it the way that I approach teaching the materials, to try to make it as normal as possible, to make it not a thing. Like this is just what it is. These are the expectations, and these are the artists that we discuss in this medium. So it really influenced my teaching a lot. And also it just made me reflect on my own practices. Like as a performer, am I doing just service to musicians who are maybe from underrepresented demographics? And also as a composer, you know, what is my role in this complex society, you know, and what can I do, you know, sort of the same questions that you're asking, I'm asking myself. It's and I don't have an answer, you know.
Yeah.
It's very complicated. So
yeah. Well, and just for I by no means mean to put you all on the spot to have an answer. That's not the point of the question at all. Because as I think I mentioned, I think yeah, for me, just in my family and in my relationship and in my professional life, it's conversations that are happening regularly, but that are, I mean, it's there's a lot of angles to think about that are important. So yeah, thanks for answering the question. But and that's a great that's a cool space to think about it in, because I think that resonates with me a little bit too in the work that I'm doing at Princeton, not in terms of classroom teaching, but just in those, what it can mean in the academy to rethink these things, you know. F and R, you know, you're second in alphabetical order, Felix, both ways we look at it.
Yeah,
So
I
what have
mean,
you been
like,
thinking about?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely have, and Alan and Martin can contest to this, but like, you know, like when, um, outside of music, because I mean, like, yeah, like, because we talked about before, but you know, really, this whole past year, obviously, we're all separated, and so we've been really trying to process how we can be doing things, you know, remotely, and we've been really doing more, you know, as of recently in the past couple of months, but early on in COVID, you know, it was really hard to like just think about like, you know, when everybody was really isolated at the beginning and having those very initial thoughts of like, you know, like what, like, you know, what can I be doing now as a musician, and then once sort of, you know, the whole George Floyd, you know, uh, incident happened, you know, I personally really got involved in doing a lot of activism, and so, you know, I was working a lot and doing volunteering with different like Black Lives Matter organizations in New York City. So I mean, and even still now, like I'm still pretty active doing that sort of work. Like I work for I'm not sure if you heard of a group called Freedom March NYC, but they're like a Black women-led organization out in New York City. And so I've been working with them as like their development person. And so it's been a lot of juggling around. And then even with Pathos, we've you know, we did an event with New Music USA where we raised over $10,000 to go towards specific activist groups in New York City. So like we've also been trying to, as a group, grapple with how, you know, like where's our, like what Alan was saying, where's our place in all of this, and like how can we as musicians really like how can we be doing our part and, you know, making a more better and just, you know, just world for people, specifically like, you know, underrepresented, you know, people. Yeah, and we've been thinking a lot about that too, like with, you know, once we were able to kind of like finish up our current projects, like we've been thinking a lot about who we're going to be commissioning next, and we're really taking the time now and trying to do the research to really, you know, like really pick composers that, you know, maybe haven't had their voices gotten heard, but at the same time, obviously we really resonate with their music, and, you know, that are people that we, you know, that we feel that we can really potentially, you know, work with well. So, and that's kind of where I've been personally, and then I guess sort of generally as a group.
Yeah, no, the event y'all did was so cool. Congratulations on that. That was really, really awesome. And I think I'd forgotten about the number, the $10,000 mark that you guys raised. That's remarkable. It's really, really awesome work. Marcelina, how have you been thinking about it this moment?
Yeah, so I'm just very like proud listening to Alan and Felix, you guys talking about this. Yeah, for me, especially with the COVID situation, I legitimately was kind of scared for the ensemble, like what is going to happen, like how are we going to even communicate, like how are we going to put out music? I can't travel to New York to even, you know, play with them because as you know, I'm in Miami Beach. And so this was like a legitimate kind of concern for me, was what is going to happen. But we found ways to do it, whether it was doing fundraising, you know, benefits online through pre-recorded music, or recording from a distance. Like me and Felix did a duo together that will be releasing soon.
Awesome.
And just being involved in like this new commissioning process that we're going to be doing for our upcoming commissions, because as we talked about, there's pretty much nothing written for this instrumentation. We do want to, you know, select artists that we really can relate with, and good music is diverse. I think that's something that, I mean, should be stressed over and over and over again. We want to play good music, and good music is diverse. And so it's just like, to me, it's always been obvious throughout my whole life to play with different people from a young age. no ensemble that I ever played in wasn't diverse. That's just how the world looks, you know, thankfully. And something that, you know, is so dear to me is also just like outreach and you know, commissioning composers. And even from my last ensemble, the Excelsis percussion quartet, that was something
Who
that
played Brooklyn
was
Bound? I just want to shout out my yes.
No,
please.
it was so obvious to us to just commission, you know, other women, just a diverse crowd. And so this is just a continuation of that work, and we hope to use our voices for good.
Awesome. Sorry to cut you off there, Marceline. I was just excited that, you know,
That's fine.
cutting people off when over Zoom, when there's a lag and a tenuous connection is like the worst idea ever. But no, I something you had said just about figuring out how to do maybe recording from a distance. One experience I had early in this, I think, was feeling like the music I make, the group I'm in is such a live group. We love playing concerts. We love sharing space with people. We love that part of it, right? And then you realize, well, wait a minute, a lot of the music that I like and a lot of music I make is recorded music. It's music that's made by layering. It's music that can still work in this space, you know? And then you, Ty Braxton was giving a talk the other day that I was listening to, and you know, talking about how much when he gets a big orchestra piece played or something, how much it's about the recording. And he said, because all the orchestra music that I've listened to, 90 whatever % of it has been through recording. It's not like, you know, it's not like most of the repertoire we actually take in live concerts, you know? And that kind of struck me. Another friend said the same thing, you know, where it was like, right, like so much of this music we actually take in through recording, even though we think of our medium as such a live medium. You know, I don't go to orchestra concerts every week, or I haven't heard the repertoire that I have heard. A lot of it's been through recording. So it's I think there are some things that we're going to take practically from this moment that can be positive, you know, a kind of rethinking of the way we make music. But that said, I cannot wait to be making music in the same space as people. Like I'm not advocating for that not to change at all. You know, I love being a live group, you know. But maybe with that in mind, the last question I ask everybody kind of on its way out, and maybe we'll go in reverse order. Felix, you get to just live in the middle here with your consonants, with the letters of your name. We'll go backwards. But it's just, you know, for so I always say that the kind of stories we have from the touring we've done in so many ways is kind of like the lore that we've built our group on, the bonds that we have with each other, the stories that we tell about like the crazy shit that's happened to us on stage or the wonderful stuff that's happened to us on stage. A lot of it has to do with, you know, breaking flower pots and things like that, but some of it is also positive. You know, and those are the stories that get told in the van over and over when you're on the road, or when you're in the rehearsal space and you're like kind of like slogging through all this, is the kind of the common stories you have together, you know. And those come from, you know, these concert experiences that we all, I can say, I don't think So has a story over the last year of some concert experience of like, you know, oh, remember when we were like showing that video on YouTube Live? You know, it's like, that's not where the kind of bonds are made. You know, it's been through making music together. So do you all have some, and I know, you know, Pathos has a younger history than So does, and a year of it has been in COVID. So not to, but you know, is there a memorable experience that you all share as a trio, or individually, you know, what are the kind of memorable concert experiences that maybe you go back to that when you do get to have a drink together in the future, you know, you're gonna be like, you know, that one was, you know, I don't know. What are those experiences for you? And Marcelina, it can be a trend, you know, kind of very positive, transcendental kind of experience, or, you know, if you have the broken flower pot story on stage too, that's also a great one.
So I mean, so many stories, some of which I probably cannot say to the internet. I think a lot of stories that involve alcohol that cannot be told on the internet.
I don't know about cannot, but if you decide not to, that's fine. But
yeah,
another time.
Alan. looking at you, Alan. Anyway, something. I mean, I definitely like the initial kind of bonding when we were going to metal concerts together. That was very special, and like, you know, just kind of just arguing over, you know, metal stuff is just like, oh, we were such babies. And then definitely like when we play together, it technically really like involves travel of some kind always, because I'm the one that's usually traveling to New York, or we're also, when we were traveling to like Avaloq, there's a lot of like car rides and, you know, a lot of great conversations there. But definitely like some of my favorite moments is that, yeah, when we're just together and we're playing or recording, because I think, you know, especially with these two guys, I'm so inspired by their abilities as musicians, and they're just such like beautiful people, that it's just, yeah, it's a privilege to just make music with them. And that's like my favorite thing is when we're performing, because I just feed off their energy.
Awesome. It's gonna happen again. I know it. It has to. What about you, Felix?
Yeah, no, definitely, and it's funny because like Marcelina was saying, it's like, yeah, like, you know, like I'm always getting like inspired by like Alan and Marcelina like every day with like what they do, and it's like, I mean, especially with Marcelina, you're like killing it in New World Symphony, so it's like me and Alan are always like, man, like we're like so lucky to be playing with you, and like we're just like two music dorks that you just tolerate. But
Love it.
but definitely I think like for sure my favorite experience, like times together, is definitely when we were at Avaloq, because really when we were at Avaloq, that was like the most time we were really like together in one space, you know, for extended period of time, and we can really feel like, yeah, like there's definitely like special energy and chemistry with the three of us, that it's like, yeah, we're going to be making like real special music.
That's awesome. Avaloq.
And like every moment at Avaloq was fun and pretty hilarious.
Yeah. It's a special place. I've only been up there once. It's a special place, Avaloq. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, maybe Alan can say one or two stories about Avaloq if he wants to.
Yeah, and Alan, I think you have to start with positive things about your band. I'm just gonna warn you. You got to start there, or else you're really the odd man out.
Yeah, I was actually gonna just like sledge them and say,
yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the feeling is very mutually exclusive. Like we just have the best time working together. It's funny because you were saying like pinpoint an experience, but when I really try to think about everything, like putting these works together, it just blends as like one giant good time. It really does. Like it's just like a lot of fun, even when it's stressful, even when there are deadlines or there are things that really aren't working with a particular passage or something. Like it's always just like this very good nature. I'm trying to think of any. So all right, so stories from Avaloq, or then maybe a performance story. I have one kind of like fail story that I could share. So
I think I know where
give us your best. Give us your best fail story.
So you know, these composers we work with have just this extraordinary imagination, and they write sort of extended techniques into the works that are really wonderful and beautiful. But it's a language, and it takes time to find that language with an extended technique sometimes. And you know, there was this one instance where we were bowing inside a piano, and we just did not nail down the right materials, and we had tested, and it was not always 100%. So we did sound check, and it worked beautifully. And in the concert, there was this one moment where there's just like this pause, and then I have this one pitch that I start bowing, and it just didn't. It was just it was like the worst possible sound that you could possibly imagine. It was like the piano was croaking.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was the most 2020 thing I've ever heard in my life. So there's the personal for you.
I love that. I love 2020 as an adjective, though. I think that's yeah.
But yeah, it's really awesome working with them. And another kind of moment that I remembered, actually, it's not within the group exclusive. It actually has to do with some of the composers we worked with too. When Marcelina was talking about Allison, it just reminded me of this one story of Allison that really struck me, and it made me realize how sometimes a person's music really is so similar to their personality. because Allison's music, it's very complicated to put together, but at the same time, it's very idiomatic and thoughtful for the performer, which to me is just like praise, you know, when you can combine those.
Yeah,
two.
yeah, yeah.
So I remember we played this concert. I forget where we were. Maybe it was a Rete, and and it was really cold, and we had to load out. And as a percussionist, Jason, I'm so sorry just for that, like having to load in and out. Like,
Yep.
I didn't know. I said, I didn't know. And I experienced it. Now I have like a whole new perspective. So anyway, the concert ended and we were loading out. We thanked everybody for coming. Everybody left. But Allison stayed behind and she actually helped us load everything out.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. I was like, that. We choose good composers.
That's really meaningful. That's high praise for Allison right there. That's like totally. There are two different kind of composers and two different kind of pianists too, Alan. You know, those are the first to the bar and those who help out. So that's I'm assuming you're a help out kind of pianist, or else the trio may not make it, you know.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, I'm so pumped to hear your set in March and to see all the awesome things you guys have going on in the near future and further future. Thanks for taking the time to hang and chat. And if you got, you know, usually we get together on YouTube and, you know, say hey in the chat while the concerts are going. So hoping that I'll see you all there on March 11th, 7 p.m. Eastern time. See you there. Yes. Can I get some good? Yeah. Alan, you gonna be there? Marcelina, you there?
I'll be there.
All right.
Yeah,
Felix, I know you're gonna be there. Okay. Awesome. Well, have a great, you know, rest of your week and see you soon. Stay safe, everybody.
Yeah, see ya.
Take it easy.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys.